welcome Howard Bernstein to Mary Welter Radio. So glad you are here. And the weird thing is that I asked you to come on like 2 weeks ago. I fixed it. Thank you, IT department. Fix it. Thank you. I asked you to come on. What I think it was like 2 weeks ago. You were on vacation.
I was. I think I told you I was in Greece or something. If I wasn't
right.
mistaken.
All right. So you
Yeah,
were
I couldn't
somewhere
do it.
traveling the world.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he couldn't do it. And so I said, well, I texted him over the holiday weekend. I wanted to get it done early because I knew he'd be off partying. So I said, what about Tuesday? He said, yeah, I think I can do it. I'm like, well, is that a yes? He said, yeah, I could do it. I said, great. And who knew there was going to be this horrific weather event in Texas for us to unfortunately discuss.
Talk about, yeah.
So we're going to do that. I do want to tell everybody, I want to thank the people at the Rising Tide podcast. Sent me my hat. Is my hat on right? How's that? Well, I can't get it on my head.
Close enough.
But anyway, you get the idea. It's hard to put it on straight when you're looking in this thing because everything's backwards, So,
See,
but there you go.
If you had been an honorary meteorologist for 30 plus years where everything is reversed, it'd be a piece of cake. It'd be second nature.
Right. Well, there you go. So, but it's really cool. Made America proud again. Get it? So thank you to the wonderful gentleman there. Now, they did send me an email address where you can buy these. And I can't find that email address. So I know you're watching. So please send me the email address again. And you can even put it in the comments on one of the on either Rumble or on YouTube or Getter. You can put it in the comments, and I will happily also put this in the comments when I post the videos and the audio. Okay, on Spreaker. So thank you so much, gentlemen. That's really, really sweet. So they had me on their podcast. That was very nice. Yeah, it was very cool. All right, let's before we get to the serious business that we're going to talk about. Let's welcome everyone. Now Tax USA is here, but he's driving. He's at the deplorable store getting supplies for the Airbnb. I don't know what that means.
There's so many that could be, that's really not nailing it down,
He said Walmart. He's at Walmart. Scott's here. Bill's here. Hermit's here. Sal is here. Bill digging the music. Bill likes the music. Suze is here. Woot, woot. Suze is from PH. She's a big PHT listener, 1210 in Philadelphia. And I was in for Rich Zioli on Friday and on Monday. And now Mike Apelka was in for Rich Zioli today. And I'm like, Zioli's got a great deal going on there because he was on Fox News. And so he drove to New York to be on Fox or took the train or whatever. Yeah. And he had a morning hit and his show doesn't go on until 3:00 in the afternoon. And he milked that puppy and took today off. I'm like, good for you, Rich Zioli. Way to work that one. Like I've worked for bosses who would have been like, well, good. What's the next train? When can you be back? And you could do your show prep on the train. That actually happened to me. We went to the Gracies. I won a Gracie's. So we went to the Gracie's in New York and we were taking the train back and back to DC. Or no, we went to some event. That was some sales thing that we had to go to in New York. And they made me do my show prep on the train so I could be up at 3:00 the next morning to do the morning show. So
you don't miss that, do you?
No, I don't. Squeaky's checking in. Ron's checking in. And by the way, I have to say, Ron, his cat Maddie is his profile picture there, Maddie. And Matt the cat passed away. So condolences to Ron. And I know what that feels like since we just lost Gracie. And so I get it. And that's terrible. But Maddie cat lives on in all of Ron's memes. So that's great. John is here. Oh, John is over on Rumble. It's Yitzhak is here. Greetings to all and to the Queen. All are welcome. Thank you to Evie for doing my graphics. Thank you to his son Zach, who is our biggest fan. He's incredible. Shenanigans found me through Wendy Bell. Yes, Wendy's awesome.
I was listening to you locally here in WRTA when you were doing that because I believe WRTA in Altoona is now the flagship station for WBR. So
Yeah, it is. Isn't it great? Yitzhak says, Howard, I'm seeing a PACE poster in the background. Are you a graduate? I was PACE
no.
That's 81.
Let me show you something. Hang on.
Okay. What's a gnat in here? Oh, it's space.
When my boy was little, like growing up in elementary school, he's really into it. We actually did father son. We did parent-child space camp weekend in Huntsville. He was so into it. I took him to a shuttle launch before that program ended, and we got him this big giant book. It was on sale at Costco, for the holidays one year. And of course, he's now 25 and living in Wisconsin, and it's one of those things that's still in my house.
You got to do what my parents did. My parents and my husband's parents got together because they live near each other and they're very good friends. And years ago, they made us rent a U-Haul, and both sets of parents had collected all of our crap and made us go from my house to their house, loading our junk into it. And that was that. My parents did, they were like, and I'm at that point of life where I'm in the like the downsizing. Speaking of what, where is it? You know what? I'm gonna go get it. Let me call the IT department. Hold on.
Sure.
Hold on. I'm
And
gonna call the IT department here.
can I answer Hermit Sal's question while you're doing that?
Sure. Go ahead. There it is. I'll read it out loud first.
Sure. Hal says, Hermit
'cause
Sal,
you
excuse me,
bring
said
me
Hal. I
the-
contracted that. Says, I read in the papers that the flooded county lost $1 million bid for a weather warning system. From what I understand, they were given some money from the federal government and they had to come up with their share, often with government from the federal or the states or the local levels. It's got to be a combination of Fed money, local money. And they didn't feel that the residents of that county, again, it's my understanding from what I've been reading the last few days, wanted to pony up, so to speak, for their portion of that. With that being said, there are NOAA weather radios, and I think I have one. Oh, yeah, well, yeah. See, this one's not plugged in because I'm kind of attuned to what's going on, but this little device, right, had they had one, had it been on, had anybody there been paying attention, there were warnings. They are in a well-covered area by weather radio, even if the cells aren't there. And this is an older one, but you can get these for, I don't know, 30, 40 bucks. And if you're going to be in a floodplain, Mary, I was going to talk about this a little bit later, but I'll bring it up now.
Well, hold on.
Okay.
Oh, go ahead.
I'll wait.
No, go ahead. I just want to tell everybody, just so everybody knows, speaking of weather, we are rocking and rolling right now. We have a huge storm coming over us, and it is lightning and everything. So there's a really good chance we may lose power. So we'll only be down because I do have a whole home generator. So we'll only be down if we go down for like 10 seconds, and then we should come back. So don't go anywhere.
It's almost on top of you. Yeah, I mean, it's I bet there's going to be some good winds too. I wouldn't be surprised to get some 30, 40 mile an hour winds or more coming through.
No, because the awnings will come off the house. We don't want that. We don't want the 30,
are they
40
fixed?
miles.
You can't lower them?
No, they're like my house is from the 1880s. It has, so we have the old timey awnings that get put on a house in the summer and they get taken off in the fall. They go on in like May and they come off, and you see them all along the Jersey Shore. Everybody's got Whoa. Okay.
So
big lightning.
It's just hammering outside.
Yeah. So sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, because I texted Howard. I'm like, we have a tornado warning, so I might be a little late. So he looked it up for me, and he's like, "No, I think you're good." I was like,
"Well,
okay,
the tornado. Well, I told you the tornado warning was canceled, but there are the whole line up and down the Jersey Shore, really, from in fact, including goes into Brooklyn all the way down toward where am I looking? Tom's River is all under severe thunderstorm. Several severe thunderstorm warnings because that line's rolling through in the next. Really, the next 20 minutes will probably be the worst of it for you.
Yeah, here we go.
I think I can hear the thunder in the background of your mic.
Can you hear it? Yeah, it's pretty loud. Sorry. Every time I go like this, it's because I have two windows right there, and I just see the lightning go. Blah, blah, blah. I'm like, oh, okay. All right. So before we get into this, I just have a question to ask you as a man. All right. Do you belong to like a warehouse club or anything like that? So do you?
In fact, I belong to both Sam's and Costco. I have cards for both.
So do we. Well, we belong to BJ's and Costco because we don't have Sam's. So we belong to BJ's and Costco. And so my husband, when he buys stuff, he overbuys. And there's only two of us, right? So there was we will never, ever, ever have to buy light bulbs. Because when Barack Obama said he was making the incandescent, the regular light bulbs illegal, my husband went out and panic bought every single light bulb he could possibly find, right? So we have those. And we have so much stuff in this house for two people. It's insane. So my favorite protein drink, I have it's called Protocino. It's a protein drink. It's cappuccino flavored. I like to put it in my coffee. Well, they don't make it in the canister anymore, which is like this big. The canister is like a canister, right? And that little canister lasts me forever. because I don't do it all the time. And I put it in my coffee and it's fantastic. So I said, I said to him, oh my God, they don't make and he drinks it too. I said, they don't make it anymore. Well, they not that. I said, but they make it in the packets. I'll order the packets. He goes, no. He goes, so he went on a quest to find new protein powder. And I'm like, well, don't buy a lot because I don't know if I'm going to like it because almost a lot of it's really crappy,
by the way, I
right?
saw what you posted on social media earlier.
Did you?
So
Did you
yeah,
see it?
so
Look at
yeah,
this thing.
I know that,
Look
but
at the size. Look
that's
at
the
the
only size
size
they
of this
have.
thing. My
Unless
husband
you
bought. I don't even know if we're gonna like it. What happens if I do? He goes, but it's chocolate flavored. It could be chocolate chalk for all I know. But he bought 2 pounds.
two.
How
Why did
much
he
is
buy two?
this?
Why did 2 pounds? He didn't buy two of those.
2.3 pounds. 2.3
But
pounds of
that's the
protein
only
powder.
size they're selling on the warehouse clubs.
But he didn't. Oh, see, here's the rub. He didn't buy it in the warehouse club. He ordered it through Amazon.
Oh, well, yeah. See, at least at the warehouse club, generally, if you don't like it, you can bring it back, right?
Right.
And they'll take most things.
So I looked at this thing arrived in the mail and I was like, what the holy hell? This thing is like Herman Munster size, right? Or like Arnold
Yeah.
Schwarzenegger. We're going to eat it every single day for several meals a day, right? So I look at him and I said to him, I said, what happens if we don't like it? Because I'm used to his bulk buying. At this point, I just find a place, we put it. We have a coal bin in the basement, and that's where the 10,000 rolls of toilet paper and paper towels are. Plus, there's more in the shed in the back, right? Because we have to, and he has a log of where everything is, which is great. I love the
You're
organization.
one of those
And
survival preppers.
he's a prepper. We got the prep stuff too. And then he goes to me, I said, well, what happens if we don't like it? He goes, oh, that's okay. I'll eat it. I bought it. I'll eat it. I'm like, so you're going to eat 2.3 pounds of this, even if you don't like it because you bought it.
To make a point, right?
It's going to take years. It's going to take years.
Does he work out? Does he have gym buddies that he could share it with if it
Gym,
doesn't
all
like it?
right, neither one of us have time to go to the gym. We both go upstairs and work
Okay.
out or do.
Well.
Like my arms got really bad from my reconstruction. So like my arms are like really not good right now. So I lifted today. Today was lift day.
Oh
so,
my
that
goodness.
kind of thing.
I had rotator cuff surgery about 15, 16 months ago on this arm.
Yeah.
And
I
now,
followed you.
yeah, no, it's all, I'm back. I'm back better than I've been in like 5-10 years.
I'm not back. I'm not back. I just started.
Give
I
yourself
just got
some time.
discharged.
It's not going to happen
I just got
overnight.
discharged from physical therapy last week. So, okay, let's get back to the conversation at hand. And we're talking about what happened in Texas. So Sal said, thank you for answering my question. And he says, he said, Siri, he asked about the early warning system. So if you're just
Right.
joining us, he asked about the early warning system at the camp and in that area. Do they not have an early warning system? And you explained
right, that they probably don't have one of these. Or if they
Right.
do, they wasn't on or wasn't near where they were sleeping. Or something my guess is a lot of people didn't have it. It was July 4th weekend. At 11:30 at night, I saw a radar that showed a picture. There was nothing going on over that area at 11:30 at night. That doesn't mean it wasn't raining buckets, 10 miles, 15 miles away.
Right.
But if you were going to sleep at 11:30, and some of those campers are little kids, they were going to
Right,
sleep
they were
at probably
asleep.
8, 9 o'clock at night.
Right.
Summertime, they may be out late and doing whatever. Maybe they had a little fire. Who knows? Maybe it was 9:30, but still 11:30, they're out. And this is a problem. So, I did television weather for over 30 years, and we would have hurricane warnings. I worked in New Orleans, and people wouldn't leave. You can't save everybody, which is a really painful reality, right? That's one.
No, it's hard.
And that's a
Yeah.
painful reality because not everybody's going to listen. And that's why you hear the officials saying, well, if you're not going to evacuate, get a Sharpie and write your name on your arm or something. So when we find your body, we can identify you more easily. Part of that's a scare tactic, but part of that is pragmatic, right?
Right.
So that's one. The other thing is, and there's all these questions. First of all, the finger pointing, if you haven't heard, the Weather Service, yes, they've had a lot of people take buyouts. The cuts haven't gone into effect yet, and we can discuss that later. But I think it's New Braunfels is the local weather forecast office for that region. They had extra staffing on because they knew there was a flood situation. The flood watch was out. They started issuing flood warnings as the event was going on. So, and I looked at the discussion, and a lot of people don't read the forecast or discussion. It was pretty evident that they were well aware that this could be a bad situation. I don't think anybody can comprehend ahead of time how bad it was going to be. I don't think we're there as a science to have that ability yet to forecast the extreme events, right? And I'll talk about not just here in Texas, but Ellicott City, Maryland, has had catastrophic
Right.
flooding, multiple. Yeah, there's three rivers that come together. They built on top of that. The state of Maryland spends money trying to mitigate it. At some point, I don't know if it's going to be this year or in 40 years, there's going to be another catastrophic flood in Ellicott City, Maryland. Should we
Well,
still be there?
so here's the thing, and that's a great question. We can get into that, but it had flooded in the same place in Texas, right? It had flooded there in the 80s.
87, I think, was the last
Right, 87.
catastrophic
So
flood.
it had flooded there in the 80s. So it doesn't happen regularly. It is not a regularly occurring thing. And they did that to us with Sandy. Like, if you're not going to evacuate, write your name on your arm, blah, 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 blah,
Yeah.
blah. And so I stayed. And we were good. We were very blessed. So that's fine. But I think what happens is when you try to like mitigate these things, like they're going to try to mitigate in Ellicott City. I watched it at the shore here. They tried to mitigate beach erosion. And you can't mitigate beach erosion. So the Army Corps of Engineers came in like I don't know, like the 50s, and they put these jetties into the ocean on the Jersey Shore. And what happened? They found out 50 years later, 40 years later, oh, it hastened beach erosion.
Why? Because
So they
the
wound up
sand it's collecting on one side of the jetty isn't
beside.
being deposited somewhere else.
Exactly. And the sand is moving north from the Manasquan Inlet. It's moving south from there. So Monmouth County, it moves north to Sandy Hook, where the lighthouse is like a quarter of a mile inland than it used to be on the coast. And now it's a quarter of a mile. And then from this Manasquan Inlet, which is getting huge, it's moving south. So you can't Mother Nature's gonna do what Mother Nature's gonna do. And if Mother Nature wants the beach, Mother Nature's taking the beach. That's just the way it is. You can't change that. But we try to keep trying to change it. Down in Ocean County, New Jersey, where I'm sure you saw the pictures after Sandy, it cut a huge inlet from the ocean to the bay. A huge inlet was cut there, which had been there before, but the Army Corps of Engineers filled in. And shockingly, Mother Nature put it back.
Yeah,
and so you know what they did? They put it back in.
All right, I'll tell you a couple things. The inlet between Ocean City, Maryland, and what's that down to the beach? Assateague, right? That was cut in a hurricane. I believe the Mauritius Inlet on Long Island, the 38 hurricane, did that. In Louisiana, they have the spillway. Maybe you don't know. There's a spillway. I think it's called the Bonnie Carey Spillway. It goes the Mississippi. It diverts water into the Atchafalaya Basin as opposed to it going downstream all the way to the end of the Mississippi River and dumping there. What they found out from that, Mary, was that silt, which would have replenished the coastal areas along the Mississippi Basin at the mouth of the Mississippi, was being diverted into the Atchafalaya Basin. So now you have areas of southeast Louisiana not getting the replenishment. The land is sinking. They're not getting the silt. It's getting worse and worse and worse. I lived in New Orleans, my first TV job, almost 5 years. Does it make sense logically, right, to still be in New Orleans after Katrina? And the levees failed because of human failure, not design. It was actually the execution of the construction was inferior. The levee should not have failed. That was man-made catastrophe. But still, we're emotional beings. We're human beings. So no, we can't leave. We've got too much history, too much love, too much whatever. Logically, we shouldn't be there. Emotionally, we can't leave. And this is the conundrum we have as being humans and having that part of it there. So there are all sorts of examples all over the place where we shouldn't be building. I mean, look at California with the wildfires, right? Should we be there building, or if we are, maybe we need to do a better job of mitigating the danger. And
exactly.
As horrible as this was, they're in a floodplain. It happens, and sadly, the people in charge. And I know they're still looking for bodies, so it's like I'm reticent to talk about this. But as one who has some experience in this field, at what point does personal responsibility come into play for them, for you, for all of us? I actually got written up, believe this or not, because I had a post years ago on Facebook when I was still working in TV, and I made a point about, if you don't know, last thing I said, and I didn't mean it, and then people, I guess, management takes it the way they want to take it. And I actually said, if you don't know or where you live on a map, perhaps that's a skill set you should be working on. and it was taken like I was insulting the audience, and I was trying to encourage the audience because these weather warnings are all map based, and a lot of people do
Right.
struggle. They struggle with reading maps. So I
Oh,
meant that as encouraging, and I actually got written up for this, believe it or not.
oh, so there's a letter in your file, in
Well,
your permanent file?
oh yeah, yeah, and I had to take it down, and they were just, it was like it was like it's like I committed, like I hit somebody in a crosswalk driving or something. I mean, it was, and it was like, how could you do that? I was like, well, I think people, if they're doing weather things, should know where they live and know how these warnings and these maps affect them. This was not meant as like, I wasn't trying to call anybody an idiot. But people take things the way people take things.
Yeah. No, I know. And the people who are perpetually offended are perpetually offended. Lots of comments coming in. Thank you. Thank you to all
Yes.
the Wendy Bell listeners who are now over here on the Rumble. I so appreciate you. Whether you're on YouTube, Rumble, Get or whatever, please subscribe. Please give me the thumbs up. Please comment, especially on Rumble. Keep going.
Yeah.
It all helps, and I really do appreciate that. Suze says, Mayor, we bought a ton of old light bulbs too.
Oh yeah. Oh, I do want to make a point. Just I see Gregory wrote about the cloud seeding. I had heard
Okay,
this
you're
about.
way far. You're way past me. You're way
Oh,
down and past me.
I'm sorry.
I'm not there yet. Yeah,
Oh,
you're jumping ahead.
I'm in real time. I'm just looking at this going.
Yeah. So we're just hang on a second.
Okay.
Hermit Sal says he used pine cones to determine whether it will rain.
If it
Um,
works.
yeah. How many, Gregory, how many 5-gallon buckets of food that won't expire until 2099 do you have, ma'am? He hasn't started that yet. We're going slow. We're going slow. Let's see. There was severe weather. Fortunately, Farm, there were several weather modification companies active in the area, at least 4.
Can I address this real quickly?
Yeah, go.
All right. So cloud seeding. Look, if we had a perfectly pristine
Are
atmosphere.
you ahead? You're jumping ahead because you can't help yourself? Is that what you're doing?
Well, no, I thought you said about the 4.
I just put up
The weather
for,
modification thing though.
yeah,
This kind of
weather
plays into it.
modification companies active in the
Right.
area, at least 4.
Well, weather
Okay,
modification being cloud seeding, I think he's alluding to as the other person. So cloud seeding, you need something for moisture in the atmosphere to grab onto to go from water vapor to or gas to water vapor to a raindrop. If we had a perfectly clean atmosphere, it would never rain or snow. So we need a little dirt, dust, aerosol, whatever, right? Salt, sea salt. Cloud seeding, all it does is make it so that the available moisture has something to grab onto. We had a tropical air mass. It was what was left over of a tropical storm, a few other things going, hill country, which gives you a little orographic lifting. And when you've got hills, you've got valleys, and boom, all the water goes to the valleys. So if there was cloud seeding, the role it played was insignificant compared to the fact that there were, I think it was record or near record levels of water across Texas in the atmosphere itself. Now, was there maybe some climate change to play in that? Possibly, because a warmer atmosphere holds more water. It's just basic physics. There's more space between the oxygen and the nitrogen for water vapor. So if it's warmer, that's why we get much heavier rains in the summertime than in the wintertime. The water potential is just that much better. So the whole thing about the cuts, about the weather modification, it's all BS.
Yeah. Sal says, Yitzhak just asked a good question. Why build that camp in a flood zone? That camp had apparently been there for a really long time. And there were levels of it, like they had Senior Hill, which is why the girls who were seniors escaped. And people forget. I want to tell you, people forget, after Sandy, and people build, here, New Jersey is a swamp. We've got swamp everywhere. There are, right? It's everywhere. And they took a great area here of swamp back in the 70s and illegally backfilled it so they could build on it, right? Money talks. So all those houses had 7 feet of water in them on Sandy. Well, because you were like this far above the flood, right? The flood zone. You're like this far above it. So of course it happened. I think if we only build in areas that don't flood, most of New Jersey will not be built on. Most of the East Coast won't be built on, right? And then you get in. So where are you going to go? Well, you have tornadoes in the Midwest, so you probably shouldn't build there because of tornadoes, right?
I'll just build a
And you can't
shelter.
build in California because of the mudslides and the stuff. And then if you want to build in out towards the west, you've got the wildfires, so you shouldn't build there. So where are we going to live? You shouldn't build in Florida because of hurricanes. Where are we going to go?
Well, look, every place has their thing that you have to be aware of, and you have to mitigate the risk. Nothing is risk free. I go to the store, I'm in my car, I could be killed just in a traffic accident going 5 miles away, right? Nothing is risk free. That's not going
Right.
to stop me from going skiing, or you've injured yourself skiing. You're going to get back on the slope someday, I hope.
Oh yeah, I've already.
Yeah,
I had it with
right.
shoulder surgery because of skiing, and I broke a leg skiing. I
Yeah,
went back. Then yeah.
exactly. Knowing that there's a risk that you could injure yourself again. You accept that risk. So when anybody builds someplace, if you understand the risk, you mitigate it so you have a plan. If you're in Tornado Alley, hopefully you have a place to hide that is tornado proof. Or even if
Right.
it's a room in your house, or below your garage floor, someplace that you can survive. If you live on the coast, if you don't have a place for that, you evacuate. You take certain actions, precautions, etc., assuming you have the means to do so. Not everybody has the
Right.
means. That's the other rub as well.
Right. Right.
Oh,
Right.
yeah.
No, that is, yeah, somebody, Sal talked about New Orleans being in a bowl. It was not the best place to build, but there are mitigation. You talk about New Orleans. Remember, they talked about it, putting in the big gates that they have. Oh no, that was at New York after Sandy, when everything came into Hudson Bay and everything came up the river. Like that was the problem. It was a perfect storm with Sandy. It was
Yeah.
high tide and the moon, full moon, and it was a blow-in tide, and that's why everything flooded. So apparently the Dutch do it where they have these
Yeah.
big and the Asians, they have like these big gates, right? These big
That they have them outside
floodgates.
of Venice too, I believe. So this is something that is in places in Europe, etc., that they could bring here. I mean, it's a probably a multi-billion-dollar infrastructure project, but if you're going to stay there, that money has to be spent to protect all of that investment in property, real estate, infrastructure, etc.
Yeah. And I have to tell you, if I don't have a lot of faith in Americans' abilities to get it installed, right? We have a bridge here. Oh my gosh, we have a bridge here from the mainland out to the barrier, right? And it's a peninsula. It's not really a barrier island, it's peninsula. But so they were coming across. They built one side from the mainland, one side from the thing, and they're like several inches off. It doesn't meet, and it's not that big of a span, and they're off, and it's the summer. So traffic going back and forth is down to one lane. It's a zoo. It's a mess. How? How are you off even an inch? Like, how are you off so that when you get there and they look at it, they go, oh, we screwed up. Like, how?
Well, some of these bridges, when they build them like that, they can add weight, if you will, to adjust that so it'll flex down, and then they can make the
No, no,
joint.
no. It's left, right.
Oh,
It's
left,
not.
right, off.
It's yeah. It's
Oh,
off
that's
this
just
way.
oh, that's just incompetence.
How
Yeah,
does that
no.
happen?
If it was off vertically, that makes sense. Horizontally is incomprehensible.
It's unbelievable. They built the Empire State Building in like a year, and they've been building this thing up there for I don't know how long. They took my Dunkin' Donuts, so I can't go to the Dunkin' Donuts, which annoys me because they took that for eminent domain. And now it's gonna be like, oh, now they've got to dismantle stuff that they built and make the correction. And you want to tell me they're going to put in these big doors that are going to somehow work to keep the flood out?
And
Never going to
well,
happen.
maybe they'll get a different company to do it than that one that knows what they're
Government.
doing.
It was whoever gives the biggest kickback is whoever gets the contract.
Mm.
We all know that. Yitzhak says, who does not go to the GIS mapping system and look? FEMA does. Let's see. And now Hermit Sal has a good point. I hear that whether European weather computers are better than American weather computers. If this is true, why is that? And you see it all the time with hurricanes. They have the European model, the
Sure.
American model, this model, and it looks like a big bowl of spaghetti. And he's right. The
And
European model is usually right.
in some respects it is, and I'm not one who studies the models that closely, but yeah, in some instances the euro, as we refer to it, has been better than the GFS, which is the American model. And we're going to have some problems because with the proposed cuts, some of the government agencies, I imagine, will have problems. It seems likely. Some of the United States government agencies that do this, that are responsible for the modeling, the guys at NOAA and NSIP, National Center for Environmental Prediction, and just which is a part of NWS and everything else, they're going to have fewer resources. We're already, because of the cutbacks, we're not launching as many weather balloons across the country as we did. So we're not gathering as much data from these weather balloons. So if you don't have as much data, you're not going to get as good an answer. We can still
Well,
improve the computers. We're always improving the computers. You see what NVIDIA is doing with the chips and everything else. So what happens, what's been happening is that the Europeans will make an advancement on their model, and then we'll come back here. So they've been playing like leapfrog and as they make the models better and better and better. I mean, the Hurricane Center, if you actually want to look it up, their ability, if you look, the cone, by the way, is smaller than it used to be 5 days out, and their accuracy is also, I forget the mileage, but the miles of from where landfall occurs, they've increased also tremendously over the last 20, 30 years between modeling and the human factor. Years ago, I was talking to the director of the Hurricane Center at a conference, Rick Knabb, who you may know from the Weather Channel, Dr. Knabb, and he was giving a speech, and I asked him, this had to be a decade ago, I said to him, hey, Rick, when do you think AI is going to be as good as the human and interpretation of the weather model? Because that's how it's always been done. The models come out and then the people would experience and interpret the data. Rick's like, never. I go, look, Rick, I love you. I respect the hell out of those guys, but I'm thinking 10, 20 years. And I still believe maybe it's another decade or so, but I think AI is going to help enhance. Will it make up for the reduction in numbers? I don't know. I'm a little skeptical, but I'm going to try to be at least optimistic. But the cuts to NOAA, granted, I'm biased. I've worked with these folks during my career, and the folks who work at the Weather Service, Mary, these are some of the most dedicated government employees we have. These are people who went to school. They have a passion for meteorology. They studied. Most of them have they have at least a bachelor's in meteorology or atmospheric science, and many of them have master's degrees, right? And it's incredible how smart this group is, and dollar for dollar, probably some of the best governmental money we spend. Yet they are also under the cuts of
yeah.
Doge, et cetera, et cetera.
Well,
So I have concerns that this is going to, that didn't in this case, but going forward, there are going to be some detrimental impacts from this.
well, they did, yeah, they said that they were adequately staffed, that they were,
Yeah.
they were fine as far as this goes. But of course, the left has to blame it on Donald Trump. He made the cuts.
Yeah.
They
Well,
recommend how many people you should cut, and then you decide who to cut. If you want to cut one of the two administrative assistants who handle that kind of stuff, cut them. You don't cut the guy or the woman who is doing, the most valued member of the team. That's not what's happening. But
no, but you lost a few hundred people to buyouts across the agency. So you've got
right.
vacancies in some pretty key positions. Granted, the New Braunfels office was fully staffed and then some for this event. So they handled this event well, in my
Well,
opinion.
yeah.
But will there be
Yeah.
larger detrimental impacts next year and beyond? That's my concern. That in some cases with the cost cutting, we're throwing out the baby with the bathwater.
Well, Sal says, are the New Jersey swamps called the Pine Barrens? No, the Pine Barrens is totally different. We have the Great Dismal Swamp in Morristown. We just have like your average swamp, and a lot of people around here, their backyards are swamp, and that's where the water goes. That's where it's supposed to go. The excess water, they absorb the water when we get a lot of rain and that kind of thing. The Pine Barrens are the Pine Barrens. It's just a area of all of scrub pine, and that's what they are.
Yeah,
And you
we got
drive through them on the parkway.
plenty of pine also out east on Long Island. They had Pine Barrens here too.
Yes. Yeah. Let's see. Flood zone building is thousands of years old. Economics, water, boats, access, bottom farmland. We need new paradigms. Yeah. Well, and Sal says, you asked where we can live. Months ago, I suggested living in a cave. Remember, usually great protection in caves. Yeah, until there's an earthquake and then all these rocks
Right.
fall in front of the entrance and you can't get out and you die in there.
And
Awesome.
some people don't like
Fantastic.
bats. They've got aversion to bats, and that might freak them out. Oh, when you said the 1,000-year, you had me think about something. This was called the 1,000-year flood, and that's sort of a misnomer. What these are is like they put the odds of an event like this happening at 0.001, so 1 in 1,000, right? So that has somehow been twisted into a 1,000-year flood. Just and we're seeing these 1,000-year floods more and more. So I think some of these things will have to go under some review, and maybe the odds will change of this happening because we've been seeing these, flooding downpour events, unfortunately, a little bit more frequently.
Yeah. Let's see. Yitzhak is asking about global cooling. Any minimum, more extreme weather events, or normal because more people living in risk areas, we notice them more?
I think there's both going on. Again, a warmer atmosphere carries more moisture, so you can get these heavier rain events like when Hurricane Harvey. But clearly, let's just talk with tornadoes, right? I think we get a lot more of them documented because we have more people with more phones. We've got a pretty good data
Right.
network across the country.
Yeah.
I go out storm chasing for a week every year in May with a couple of crazy buddies of mine. But you have so many people with devices and this and that, and just a bigger population. So a lot of these things are documented better than they ever have been. And even like with hurricanes, the satellite era, what really started in the 60s. So we've got 50, 60 years. What about the eons before that? So what
Wow.
we have as far as hurricanes, yeah, there are some these multi-decadal, whether 20, 30, 40-year cycles of things that I still think we're learning about. And we've got some historic record from obviously the shipping that was going on going back to Columbus
Sure.
times and stuff. But uh, uh, you know,
Yeah.
nothing beats a satellite for monitoring a storm.
Yeah. Porch View, can't forget about this. I think it's North Carolina. 50
Oh,
rescues, water rescues by my mom in Chapel Hill. They're getting it again.
yeah, Chapel Hill got hammered um, from some of that system over. But think about Helene, which was last year in North
Oh,
Carolina.
right. Yeah, North
Right. So
Carolina.
talking about these heavy rain events, and we had Alicia years ago. So what happens when you get these tropical air masses with just a little bit of it was a weak system in one sense, but if it's not moving and other things come into play that just pour, you get these flooding rain events.
So it seems to me as if we haven't had, knock on wood, a lot of hurricanes. And people are like, it's going to be the worst year ever. I hear it every year. This is going to be the worst hurricane year on
Yeah.
record. They're predicting the worst hurricane year. It's every year, and eventually they'll be right. If you say it
Well,
every year, eventually you'll be right.
hey, Hurricane Andrew didn't hit till late August in '92, right? So that was a pretty tame season until Andrew destroyed areas south of Miami as a
Right.
Cat 5, and then it hits Louisiana. Didn't get New Orleans directly, right? But it's bad if just one hits. So with warm,
True.
they've had warmer ocean waters. So what we've seen, I think, I don't know about the frequency, but we've seen these rapid intensification cycles because all of that energy's been there in the ocean. So that's one thing. We're still learning about how much of a suppression does Saharan dust have, or if you've got El Nino versus La Nina, then the upper level
Right.
conditions are worse or better one year versus the other. So that kind of negates the warmer water one year or another. So there are quite a
Right.
few factors that come into long range hurricane prediction. I know by no means do I consider myself an expert like Phil Klotzbaugh at the University of Colorado, who replaced Dr. Gray. These guys, this is what these guys do. They eat, sleep, breathe this stuff. But like anything, we're still learning. These are best guesses, and I think these forecasts come out mainly for planning purposes because if you're making budgets or an emergency manager and it looks like it's going to be a bad season, then you may have a different outlook. Maybe it's like the guys in the front office of a baseball team, and they got to know, all right, how are we going to plan for 81 home dates
Right.
versus just tonight?
Yeah. So this is coming out. Jack Posobiec posted this from the Post Millennial, and again, it's still fresh. But we're talking about the warning system. But the fire chief in Austin, Texas, has been accused of not deploying firefighters to help those who are being impacted by the flooding in Kerrville. The fire chief is accused of issuing a standing order on June 6th that prevented Austin firefighters from deploying to assist those working to rescue people during the July 4th flooding in central Texas. He was accused by the Austin Firefighters Association of refusing to deploy the firefighters to Kerr County to aid those impacted. The AFA said that it was absolutely outrageous and egregious dereliction of duty for him to deny the deployment of the firefighters. The AFA president has called for his removal and a vote of no confidence. There's been an informal request for the AFD to help out. There had been one on July 2nd, another request on July 3rd, also denied. In
Look,
hindsight,
forget
go ahead.
hindsight. Whenever there's a big fire anywhere, let alone the flood there, you know, one fire department, maybe not there, well, close enough, will send some help. It's called in kind, right? These in kind help that they do. I mean, this happens all over the place all the time. So why one would restrict that? I mean, if there was a big
Right.
fire in Austin and the people in Kerrville could send a truck, a pumper truck, whatever to help, that would be
Wait, you would.
expected and vice versa. So I don't,
Right.
if that's true, these allegations, yeah, that sounds very egregious if true.
Yeah, it really does. I'm trying to see. I think I just trying to get the
Yeah.
oh, where is it?
All right. As far oh,
All
one
right.
sec. Okay.
I'm
I'm just
looking for
reading
the
the
email.
comments. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I was just looking for the email for the hat. Negative. Okay. I'm thinking the poles are getting colder and the weather is getting squeezed into a narrower world band.
Well, I don't think the poles are getting cold, especially the North Pole. If you look at the rate of change of temperatures, it's been highest in the or greatest in the higher latitudes. So when they look at the impacts, we may not be seeing much of a change in the average temperature closer to the equator, but in places like Alaska and northern Canada, there's been a much faster rate of change of warming up in those areas from the studies that we have. So and when you look at the amount of ice in the North Pole or the Arctic, that is, that overall ice has been less and less. Although last year may have seen an increase. I know Antarctica showed an increase, South Pole, of ice on the continent. I don't know why yet. Speculatively, if you're warmer but still cold enough to snow, you'll snow more because a warmer atmosphere holds more moisture, right? So if it's 10 degrees versus minus 10 degrees, you're going to have more snowfall. It's still going to be plenty cold to snow. You're just going to have more snowfall, which can then build up the ice pack if they've had an active winter. So
Sure. I
you know,
miss the snow. It doesn't seem to snow as much as
no,
it used to.
no,
Global warming.
yes, and not just the snow. You notice the seasons start. Winter starts a little later. Maybe it's a little backloaded. At least here in the I'm in Pennsylvania, so in the Northeast, it's backloaded some. It starts a little later. You know what? You know the ski areas, right? There's a ski area near me, maybe 25 minutes away. They used to open by Thanksgiving, 15, 20 years ago. Now we're lucky, and I work a day or two out there during the season just because it's fun. We're lucky if we're open before Christmas.
No,
As one of
but by
those.
the same token, Big Sky had one of their earliest openings in
Right.
history this year. And it was 2 weeks ago, I did this podcast with a sweater on because I was freezing with the heater on at my feet, and it was mid-June. Okay. So it was the end of June
There's
and I
always
was freezing.
anomalies.
Right.
That's
Right.
why we
But
that's
that's
why we
fine.
have
Yeah.
averages. You know,
Right. No, exactly.
I don't
All
like
right.
the word normal. I like average.
I would like to just wrap this up a little bit because I have one thing I do want to talk to you about. There is some
Okay.
breaking news that I do want to address, and I know you will weigh in here since I
Okay,
know
sure.
you're a news anchor. But so out of all of this, what lessons do you think, if any, I just hit the micro, if any, are going to be learned from the Kerrville flood?
Well, they may get a siren system out of this, but I think the big lesson, and I'll preach this to everybody. You have to have a way, know where you are. You have to have a way to get those weather warnings. And whether it be a weather radio. I mean, I know a lot of people, we have them on our phones, but sometimes they get annoying. You turn them off because you have that. But if it's going to be a night, and just pay attention, have some knowledge of the world around you and what's happening. Just a little bit of knowledge and what
Yeah.
to do. If you're in a floodplain, there was a flood watch out, right? So I'm sure the parents who left their kids at that camp wish they paid attention and went and retrieved their kids. I'm sure the people who survived wish that those folks who were on the camp paid more
But
attention to the weather warnings and the advisories that were coming out before that event.
yeah,
You
I'm
know,
going to
I,
sneeze. Keep talking.
Sure. So to me, I think that's the lesson. You know, when you are dependent on others and not yourself, and I know I probably sound like some prepper or whatever, but it does come down to ultimately personal responsibility. There was a snowstorm in Maryland years ago. that the schools were really, really lax on closing. And I'm on the air saying, Loudoun County, what are you doing? Montgomery, why are you still open? I'm begging them to close. And I went on. I said, you know what? I spoke to my wife. We're not sending our kid to school today. Montgomery County can stay open. Ultimately, it's my choice and my wife's choice if we're sending our son to school. And I don't think it's safe
Right.
today. So my son's staying home regardless of what they think. And I urge you, make that decision for yourself. And I didn't get any flack, by the way, for this one, except for some guy in the Loudoun County School Board wasn't happy with me, but he can pound sand.
Well, Loudoun County School Board's a tad miserable anyway.
Yeah.
But just one thing you said, I bet you there are parents who wish they had gone and picked their kids up when they saw the warning. The water rose so
Well,
fast
the
in the
watch
45
when they
minutes.
realized that there was a flood potential that night, had they been a little bit more proactive and realized what was going, and this is because the flood watches were issued earlier before the
Right, they
warning
were
came out.
issued. Right, they were issued, but I think again, going back to what we talked about in the beginning of this, there's a certain amount of desensitizing that goes on, right? When after Sandy, when a lot of people here put their houses on the market, who came in and bought them? People from New York. Zero, zero, like every single year, parts of our town flood. And every single year, someone posts a picture of a car floating in this one section because people don't pay attention. They don't they move to the shore because it's beautiful and I got a garage. It's great. It's so much better than Jones Beach. It's wonderful. You like come out here. And they don't know what they're doing, and their car is floating and they're shocked. Or they're posting things like, I got a reverse 911 call. It said I should move my car to high ground. Where do I take it? And we're like,
Well, this goes back to what I said. Know where you are, know what the dangers are, know what you need to do to mitigate those, and know how to get the hell out of there if you have to.
yeah, I'm like, they're clearly in New York or no one tell them. Um, Star Driver said, just tuned in here, but thanks for joining us, Star Driver. I know you're super busy, so we do appreciate it. Said, I saw today that Samaritan's Purse is on the way with their mobile kitchens. They're a great organization, really great organization. All right, I just want to flip gears here real
Sure.
quickly with some breaking news. All right. According to Fox, DOJ sources have told Fox News Digital that former CIA Director John Brennan and former FBI Director James Comey are under criminal investigation for potential wrongdoing related to the Trump Russia probe, including allegedly making false statements to Congress.
Good.
CIA Director John Ratcliffe referred evidence of wrongdoing by Brennan to the FBI Director Kash Patel for potential prosecution. The sources say the referral was received and told Fox News Digital that a criminal investigation into Brennan was opened and is underway. They declined to provide further details. It is unclear at this point if the investigation spans beyond his alleged false statements to Congress, which the statute of limitations has run out on,
Of
so they
course it
can't
has.
really do a darn thing anyway. They're not going to do a darn thing. We'll get the truth. We may get the truth, but nothing's going to happen to them. I guarantee it.
Well, but if they get away with, let's say they get away with it criminally, the truth in and of itself should open a few people's eyes, maybe not
Maybe
everyone's, but because there are always going to be those people who don't care. I have a brother-in-law who has TDS, and he didn't care if he had due process. He just wanted him behind bars. It didn't matter, right? So
right.
you've got that segment of society. I told my son one of these prosecutions going on, and he's 25. I said, my problem is, what if this is before Trump was elected? I said, what if Trump actually committed a real crime? We have legitimate, we may have legitimate crime, but we've had such illegitimate prosecutions or persecutions, if you will. The water is muddy. How do you know? So that was my sort of like take on it, and we find out they were mostly bogus. But again,
Right.
had he done something that was a real crime, how do you know what's real, what isn't anymore? And I think that's the question I have for these guys, who were with Obama. Probably, you got to give Obama credit for being the head of the pyramid on this, right? And of course the Russian collusion thing with the Clinton campaign and Fusion GPS, and I'm beating a dead horse here. But if all of these people were in on it, and it appears they were, and the statute of limitations, just uncovering all of this, I think has to count for something. I think there's still a segment of this population that wants the truth, whether it is in agreement with what they want it to be or not. I'm open
Yeah.
to it. I hope enough people are open to it, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. Let's see. As for Comey, the DOJ sources say that an investigation into the former director is underway, but they cannot share details of what specifically is being investigated. So the full scope of the these are criminal investigations, is unclear. But two sources describe the FBI views of the duo's interactions as a conspiracy, which could open up a wide range of potential prosecutorial options.
Is it a RICO case or
Conspiracy.
what are they talking about here?
I don't know. I
You know?
don't know. The
Yeah.
FBI and the CIA declined to comment. Neither Brennan nor Comey responded to Fox's request for comment. The Brennan investigation comes after last week when Ratcliffe, and if you listen to me on PHT and I broke down the whole thing with these guys and what was released by John Ratcliffe and what was released in John Ratcliffe's comments, you know this. The investigation in Brennan came after Ratcliffe's last week declassified a lessons learned review of the 2017 Intel Community Assessment. The 2017 ICA Intel Community Assessment alleged Russia sought to influence the 2016 presidential election to help then candidate Donald Trump. But the review of the assessment found that the process of the assessment's creation was rushed with procedural anomalies that officials diverted from Intel standards. They cleared a whole bunch of people out. Brennan insisted on the inclusion of the Steele dossier, even though it had been debunked, and they all knew it had been
Did they say
debunked.
low confidence is a word I kept reading about, when they have these things. The analysts like, "Oh, we have low confidence in this." But they sold it as if they were 100% sure.
Well, they sold it to, but Brennan insisted, and Comey and Brennan were directly involved in the review, which normally they aren't. And apparently, quite a few people punched out and said, "I'm not getting involved in this because this doesn't smell right at all." And they didn't get involved in it. So, what do you think? See, I think that we'll find out maybe what really happened. I think we all know what really happened. But I think they walk with their pensions and they like, ha ha, gotcha, and they walk away.
And perhaps, but, I think right now too, you've got a lot of folks on the right who are upset with the, lack of an Epstein file list from Bondi. So they're
Right?
they're they're annoyed with Patel, they're annoyed with Bondi, they're annoyed with Bongino. And is this coming out now to kind of take some of that edge down and lower the temperature? Because, all right, maybe we don't have the Epstein list, but let's tell them we got these guys.
Right.
And maybe they do, maybe they don't, right? We don't know. Maybe they'll walk, maybe they won't. But there's so much, so many layers to this, if you will. And I always wonder,
I
because I'm a skeptical person, why would somebody do this? Maybe it is true. Maybe the only reason is it's true, or maybe they were using it as distraction from stuff that's giving them some negative attention.
Ooh, look at that. Look
I'm
at
just
that.
I'm just a
A
cynical, skeptical
conspiracy
man.
about the conspiracy.
Should make a good screenplay, huh?
It would. It really would, because you couldn't write this stuff. You really couldn't make this stuff up. Does treason have a statute of limitations? I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a great question.
Well, and yeah, treason.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yitzhak
this,
says it was Hillary.
yeah.
The April 14th, 1995 playbook, The Commerce of Conspiracy Theory, her claims of the great right-wing conspiracy, the exact playback with Trump. Yep.
Yeah. Well, when you go back to the bimbo eruptions, you go back to the 90s with Stephanopoulos too involved in that. If you don't remember any of that, Stephanopoulos when he worked in the White House for the Clintons, I'll say the Clintons, not just Bill Clinton. I think part of his job was to quell the
Yeah.
bimbo eruptions as they were termed at the time.
Hermit Sal says the fact that he simply is Trump makes everything a crime. It's a side effect of
Yeah.
TDS. I think
Yeah,
he's referring to your brother-in-law,
right.
right?
Yeah, you don't have to like Trump. You don't have to think he's a moral guy or a nice guy, but think about policies, think about actions, think about results with any politician. If you fall in love, this is where I've heard Bongino talk about this. Don't fall in love with a politician. You might want to fall in love with their policies, but people are flawed. Nobody's perfect except my wife, and
Right.
I say that in case it gets back to her. But seriously, what are the results here, right? And it's interesting because some people, you're right, they're so blinded by rage, hatred, brainwashed, whatever, that they don't want to actually See, they have this inability to critically think or analyze. And I'm going to make this point because this is something that's bothered me, and I wanted to bring this up. So this seems like a good time. I'm getting a little sick and tired of these moral proclamations about if you're celebrating this, you're a complete POS, or unfriend me now. Because now, who are these people that think they are on the moral high ground? They're morally superior to the rest of us, that they are pronouncing judgment on us. My God, it must be difficult living in the glass house that they live in. I hope they don't hurt themselves when they get down from that perch that they're so high up on, that they're
Mhm.
proclaiming moral superiority and telling you or me or any of us that don't agree with them that, oh, we're not alike. We don't think alike. You're a POS. I mean, all this stuff. It's insulting to my intelligence. It's also just intellectually lazy when you start telling somebody that, oh, we don't have the same morals. No, back up your position, right? Back up your point. Defend it. Give me some logic and reason, but don't insult me. Support yourself.
Well, that's what they do. I mean, this is what the left that operates on feelings
Rant
and
over.
not facts. They just, they can't help it, and they're very judgy because when what was it? What did Socrates say? When the argument is lost, slander becomes the tool of the loser. So when they can't refute what you're saying, they attack you. It's Alinsky. Attack the messenger to take away from the message.
Yeah, but you can
Make
shut
the
that down
messenger a
easy.
flawed person. You're
I tell them,
stupid. You're this,
yeah,
you're that.
I just say, look, if you want to attack me, we're done. If you want to have a civil discourse and we can disagree, I'll continue. But I'm not going to stand by. Look, I stopped talking to somebody entirely because he made the statement that the CEO got killed by Luigi Mangione, and I'm not even saying alleged on that one, right? We saw him shoot the guy and
We
kill the
saw
guy.
him do it, right?
So what did the Mangione? He's going to sue me because he used the word alleged. He murdered the guy in cold blood. We saw it, and but this person who I used to talk to, and we disagreed. Said, "Oh, I have no sympathy for him or his family." I'm like, "You have any sympathy for his family? Look, maybe you have sympathy for him because of what you perceive he did as a healthcare executive to declining people's coverage, but he had two teenage kids. What did they do to deserve that?" But this
Yeah.
vitriol from this individual who just couldn't care about two teenage kids who not only lost their father, but in such a public way that they probably can't
Right.
avoid seeing it. I mean, that was just it was horrible. And I said, look, we're done. We're done. And I've gotten to this point in my life, Mary, where I've realized I don't have to be in a conversation I don't want to be in. I said to somebody once who was being whatever, I said, I think we're done. He's like, oh, because you said so? I'm like, yes, because I say so. And then I walked away. And what do I need to put up with that crap for? Right? I'm
Yeah.
going to be
No, I
60 in a
agree.
year. What do I need this garbage for? I don't. So
I
I'm
know.
happy to have a conversation all the time with people I disagree with. But if you want to get vile, if you want to get insulting, if you want to be too stupid, if you don't want to accept fact, I'm not wasting my time anymore for the most part.
Yeah. No, I hear you. Boy, you sound like a menopausal woman. Um, The
Uh,
the DOJ are cowards. Treason, coup d'état, and overthrow does not have a statute of limitations. No, I was trying statute of limitations being on the perjury. I think it's a 5-year statute of limitation on lying before Congress. I
yeah,
pretty much
but
think that's where
treason,
it was.
but if
Treason's different. I mean, that's
right,
that's something different.
and
That
and
that's
and the penalty for treason is the ultimate. So you know,
yeah.
I-
Let's see. Bill wants to know what is better, a weather radio or a weather app on my phone?
well, weather apps are just computers spitting out crap, right? Most of the time, and they'll do most of the time just fine. But in an emergency situation, assuming you've got a good signal, and most places have a good signal for a weather radio. What if your phone is out of service? What if the cell sites go down, right? The weather radio is, in my opinion, is more likely to get that warning. But why not have both if you can? Have a little redundancy built in just in case. That's even safer.
Yeah.
But I think if I only had one for a warning situation, I'd want my weather radio.
Yeah. I am, and or if you're like me and turn your phone off at night if you don't have it, need an alarm for the next morning, I'm really not going to help you. So
Yeah,
there's that. Yeah. Yeah, we have, living where I live, we have the hand crank radio,
I got
because
one of those in the back of the car.
well, we keep it because we kept it and we've always we prepare very well when hurricanes are great because you know when they're coming, right? So you have like 5 days. So we actually have a 4-day hurricane plan. This is what we do the first day. And if it's still coming, all right, we go to the second day.
You're probably
And
in the
if it's
top
still coming,
2% of
I'm
planners
sorry?
there. You're probably top 1, 2% of people as far as being.
You know what? We lost power. We lost power and we didn't have our generator was sitting in a warehouse waiting to be installed on the day that Sandy hit. Didn't happen. And but we had like a little handheld, not a handheld, we had a little Honda generator gas that kept the water, that kept the ocean out of our basement, kept the freezers and refrigerator going, and we could cook because we have gas, so we could cook over the stove. I couldn't automatically light it, but I'm a little later, and I can make coffee that way, and I could boil water, and we had soup, and we had oatmeal, and we had hot dogs. And I will tell you, 2 weeks of oatmeal soup and hot dogs, and you pretty much have had it. But
Don't ever want to eat oatmeal again.
but you know what? We had food. Can't complain. I had food. Some people didn't have a house. I had food. No big deal. But we do that, and you're right. People aren't prepared. We have people coming to us and going because of course we got snow 2 days later after Sandy hit or whatever, and they're like, "Oh, do you have firewood we could use?" I'm like, "You have a fireplace and no firewood? I'm sorry, what?"
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
so yeah.
Yeah.
So all right. Star Driver says everyone missed the 324 people arrested last week for Medicare fraud that was worth billions. Talked about it. I got it. You must have missed the show.
Yeah.
And I forgive you for that, Todd, for Star Driver. I forgive you. But Bill, you have both. Now Tax USA says, ask Martha Stewart about jail time. Gregory said, I'm sorely disappointed with Trump's reaction to tonight's question about Epstein during the cabinet meeting. Didn't see it.
He basically said, you're asking about that right now. We've got,
Yeah.
We've got Netanyahu in town and all these other things. And I've been talking about Epstein forever, but he kind of tried to dismiss it. Was my take when I saw the video from the cabinet meeting.
Yeah, Star Driver says a conspiracy theory I heard is Trump is using the Epstein list to blackmail the swamp.
Another good Hollywood script right there.
You listen, Elon Musk has gone off the rails. I don't know what's wrong with him. But, when he said, oh, Trump's on the list, I'm like, really? Trump's on the Epstein list, and Comey and those guys who could have taken him out without a shot being fired, didn't have to do anything,
I made
didn't
that point.
release that?
Yeah,
Come on.
Biden would have buried him with it if he could have, because they were doing everything they can to keep him from being on the ballot. So why?
Yeah.
I'm with you on that one. Plus, look, Trump banned him from Mar-a-Lago and other things. So while they may have known each other at one point, it was pretty obvious years ago that went sour.
Yeah. Now Tax USA says, Howard, tell us how you really feel. Great rant.
Yeah, well, when I get going, I have a friend, Tony Pan. He does TV on WBAL, and he sometimes in the office when we would just be talking, he'd be like, dude, you need your own thing. Call it HB's rant. Because I would just, yeah.
There you go. And tell them you're keeping the ball in your yard if it comes in there. They could send their mother over
get
to
off
get
my
it.
lawn.
Exactly. My CB in my truck, even if it's off, will sound on alert. It has all the weather channels on it.
That's a good feature of that radio.
Yeah. Hermit Sal is now getting the rain. Let's see. You don't miss it because you're the queen. Hey, Queen Mary. Sorry, I'm late. Watching your back. You are late, but we're getting ready to go. But I will tell you, the audio from this will be up. I'll edit it and put it up tomorrow on it'll be on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Spreaker. I'll put it up there. I'll edit this and get this up tomorrow, the video, and I will put all Howard's info. If you want to follow him on X, hold on, don't tell me, HBWX. Right?
Yeah, for Howard Bernstein weather. WX is a weather abbreviation.
Right. So you can follow him there. And I know watching your back, I know you just got here, but you can go back and you can watch it, or you can listen to it. Don't forget, I will put this information on how to get the hat, Made America Proud Again. If you are interested, I will put that up on in the description of the video. Now, there may not be a podcast next Tuesday because I'm going to be on vacation.
Oh, good for you.
So there may not be a podcast unless we're drinking and everybody feels like it's what they want to do. And then I'm really not quite sure how that's going to go. That could be fun, though.
Wait, MWR drunk version?
Yeah.
So I actually did Don and what was it? When Mike, remember the Don and Mike show by any chance? Maybe you do, maybe no. Anyway, after they broke up, Mike was down in Fairfax, and on Fridays they had a guest in every week, and they were drinking beers. So I did I might have gotten drunk on the air once, but they did drive me home. I didn't drive, and it was after the morning shift, so I was, but I had a few adult beverages and made for
Yeah,
some
well,
good radio.
I know
Made for some good radio. We'll just put it that way.
I'm that person who has a drink and then I drink a big glass of water and I sit and then maybe have another one and I'm done. That's it. I don't,
I got to tell you,
get,
this trip I was on out to Italy, Greece, and I went stop in Turkey. I drank more in that like 7, 8 day period. I think that and wine. So I'm not a big wine drinker. Than I think I have in the last 10, 20 years. Like we had a
oof.
bottle of wine with lunch. I'm having 5 glasses. Just because it's there.
Yeah, I know. I don't drink wine. Yitzhak says, great show. And like Bastardi says, enjoy the weather. It's the only weather you got.
Yeah. Well, I
Watching your
love
backs is
seasons.
having,
I embrace any season. I mean, well, I don't like summer as much as winter. Maybe I'm crazy to you, but
I'm like you. I'm
I
like you.
sleep better when it's cold outside. I like to ski. I like winter sports. It's just there's something about a nice walk on a crisp fall day with the leaves coming down and that smell of the tannic acid
In your
too.
yoga pants with a pumpkin cappuccino.
Yeah, that's me. I'm so pigeonholed.
No, I'm just joking. Hermit Sal, do a vacation
Yeah.
podcast. We'll see. We'll see. We'll see what's going on. If it's a great day and the weather's really good, we're going to be out on the lake. We're going to
Thanks.
get, and I don't
Yeah.
know if I'll bring everybody in. Great show. I followed you on X, Howard. So
Thank
Todd
you.
has followed you
Thank you.
on
I
X.
don't post as much as I used to because I'm not actively in television anymore, and I do a little radio here in Altoona, filling in when they need somebody in WRTA. And
Post things like this when
yeah,
your wife comes home with like ridiculous stuff or sends
but
ridiculous
no, I'm
stuff
the
in the
one.
mail. And you're like, what?
I do most of the shopping because she's the one who works right now. So I'm sort of
Well,
the
my husband,
man of
oh
the house.
yeah, well, you could tell on yourself. You'd have to tell on yourself.
I
That's
would.
the
I
only
don't
thing.
care. That's a
I know.
beautiful thing when you get to a point in life when you learn not to care what other people think.
Oh,
And I'm
honey,
so
that was
close
like
to being
8th grade
100%.
for me.
Oh, well, good for you. Good for you. No, I'm
Well, I
so
think
close to being there.
somewhere around 8th grade, I realized that I was never going to be popular. And I pretty much decided to stop trying so hard because it wasn't going to happen. It didn't matter. So I was like, okay. So I just said, I'm going to do my thing and read and get good grades. And
Yeah.
maybe when I'm out of school and nobody remembers me, I could start fresh with a new crew. And there you go.
It's worked out okay for you, right?
Yeah, it's been fine. Didn't go to the
Yeah.
prom, but I'm over it and I'm okay.
No, I married my prom date.
All right. Well, no one likes to show off, Howard.
I'm not showing off. I'm just saying it's a different path. That's all.
I'm kidding you. All right, we're out of here. Thank you so much, everybody. Really, really appreciate you joining us. Thank you, Howard, for being my guest. Have a
Thank you
wonderful
for
week.
asking me. It was great.
Thank you. Thank you. We appreciate your knowledge. Have a great week, everybody. I should be, I don't know if I'm going to be on Chris Salcedo next week. Oh, okay. But the following Monday, when I get back from vacation, I'm in for David Webb. So not this Monday, the following Monday, I'm in for David Webb, 9 a.m. to noon. Have a good one. Take care. Thanks, everybody. Bye.